Hey, well, welcome to Night of Ghosts, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Daniel. I'll be the host. With me this evening, I have paranormal investigators from here in Hamilton. I got Ian and Trudy. Thanks for coming out and doing this, guys.
Oh, thank you for having us.
No problem.
Appreciate it. And I was talking to you beforehand about what kind of subjects we can cover this evening, and I mean, right at the top of, like, Trudy, you just jumped up and said the experience with Walter at the Custom House.
Oh, yeah.
Now, just a little bit of a preface before that, in case people listening, especially if you're not from Hamilton, you might not know the Custom House. But if I were to pick the most haunted house in this entire city, it would be that one. Haunted building.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And the amount of stuff we did in there, starting from 2001 up till a couple of years ago, we did regular tours, we did investigation nights, and it got to the point where I could almost guarantee something was going to happen when we went in there. Now, I'll tell a little bit about my experiences over the years in there, and some that stood out, and a couple that made me realize what real life possession is all about. But that's just a teaser. So you mentioned that out of all the experiences you had, Trudy, that the one that stood out was with Walter.
Walter, up in the attic.
Yeah, so he was the caretaker. Correct?
Yes, he was. And I don't know, the story goes, but he committed suicide in there. And it was our first night we ever did a tour there. And we went for a hunt. And we went up to the attic. These guys were coming talking to us, going, "You got to go up there. You got to go. There's some guy watching you." So we go up there. It's pitch black, and all we got is our flashlights. And we're snapping pictures. We get to the front, get to the door where he's the entrance to his room almost, and we couldn't. We took like one footstep in, and it was like he was right in front of us, going, "No, you're not going any farther."
So what exactly did you feel?
He went right through us.
It was just like a wall of electrical energy.
Yeah.
So, like, you couldn't physically move, or just felt uncomfortable?
We could move, but it was so...
I think it was so unexpected.
It was very unexpected. I mean, this was our very first investigation night at the Custom House. It was actually our first investigation.
Yeah.
And we weren't prepared. I'm sure we were there, okay, we're going to hunt for some ghosts. That's great. That's awesome.
That's one way to get introduced to it.
That was our introduction, yes.
We weren't prepared for what actually happened. We thought, okay, maybe we'll get something on our recorders or we'll film something, and we hadn't expected that.
Now,
such interaction.
Before going into the Custom House that night, were you guys fully believers?
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you have any experiences before that?
Well, the Custom House, I've always believed in ghosts. Right from when I was a little kid. I've always believed. And I've had a strange fascination with the Custom House ever since the mid-1980s, when I'd actually heard the story of the Dark Lady, and it was in some newspaper publication. It wasn't the Hamilton Spectator, it was the Mountain News or the Stony Creek News, whatever the publication was, and it talked about the story or the legend of the Dark Lady.
So for those who don't know, the Dark Lady is considered, it's just a name, right? It's considered the main spirit of the Custom House. And the legend, to paraphrase, it was of a young girl who came over from England and fell in love with the ship's captain. But the ship's captain had some secrets, led to her being murdered and her body being brought into the basement of the Custom House and buried in what is now the vault of the building, which is kind of a focal point of paranormal energy. So this story and legend dates way back into the 1800s. Now, there is a poem that was written about her called The Woman in Black. It's written by a man named Alexander Wingfield, who worked in the Custom House. And the poem kind of hints towards this spirit that's almost like the devil himself. Now, some say the poem wasn't actually about a ghost, that it was about alcoholism. I mean, it depends how you look at it, but either way, it took on a life of its own. So whether it wasn't about a ghost at the beginning, it ended up being about a ghost. And if you believe in the idea that something could be manifested from nothing, that's a perfect experiment for that, is people believed in her.
So I had heard this story, and believing in ghosts, I was intrigued. So I decided I'm going to take a drive down to this Custom House building and just kind of snoop around and see what I could get, because I knew it was abandoned at the time. And everything was boarded up. The windows were all bricked over. The building had been vacant.
That was
Probably about 6 years since the last tenant moved out, the macaroni company.
Well, no, I think. Oh, that's
'Cause
right. That was before the karate dojo.
They
came
shut
in.
down in '79, and this was '85 when I went down. And the building was just a mess. As I say, everything was boarded up, bricked over. All the brickwork on the outside of the building was just black with age and neglect. And so I kind of satisfied my ghostly.
You didn't go inside.
There was no way inside,
No.
and I wouldn't have tried to go inside anyways.
It would have been dangerous.
It
Yeah,
would.
the other thing, too, is remember there was a tree growing through the lobby.
There was, that's
from
right.
the basement that was tearing it apart from the inside out.
I remember the front door. There was a little old mail slot that you could flip up, and I peeked inside, but of course everything being boarded up and bricked over,
It's dark.
pitch black inside. So even if I could have gotten inside, there's no way.
So that's going quite a few years back before you started coming to the hunts.
1985.
So,
So
you
now
already knew
flash
about that
forward
building.
to 5 years ago. I stumbled across the ghost walks on the internet, and I saw that you had a ghost walk of the custom house. And so right away again, not having forgotten about this story of the Dark Lady and being very intrigued with the custom house, I said to Trudy, we got to sign up for this tour and take this tour. So we came down, and I was just ecstatic to be inside this building for the very first time. And it's like, okay, here we are, maybe we'll find the Dark Lady. Well, what we found, and Walter came next, but what we found first was, I believe, to be little David, the child spirit.
David is a very interesting story. Again, just an introduction, like with the spirit of David, the reason why he stands out is because there was two inclinations of that, or like versions of that investigation night. One back in the day when I was with Haunted Hamilton, and then the one that was created for the Ghost Walks, and it was a completely different group of people. Yet, one spirit remained on both, and that was David. David came through in the original group to a completely different group of people, and came through on this one as well. And I just want to say I was the only connection between the two, and I never touched the board. I was never part of those communication sessions. You guys would come to me and tell me about that, and it just floors me.
So we were on your ghost walk, and we were upstairs in the hallway in the second floor. And if you recall the story, there was of the painters painting the hallway and the word murder being written in the paint with a finger.
Yeah.
And it was at child's height, and you know the story better than I do. And anyways, we're up there, and Trudy feels child's height, someone grab her leg. No one there, other than the people on the tour.
It
Immediately,
felt like a hand just went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that was David?
and
I think so, yeah.
immediately after that, the ring on her finger broke in half and fell to the floor.
Yep. Same as these.
Oh, is it hematite?
Yep.
Really?
It broke.
Snapped.
Snapped in half and fell on the floor.
But you didn't feel any pressure or
Nope.
no pain or anything?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
See, the story with the murder, the word murder was up high because it was written by an adult. There's another story of a woman who was murdered in the basement with the dumbwaiter that used to be in the elevator shaft. But then, after the word murder, they said the handprint of a little boy, appeared on the wall. So there is the child of a spirit.
Yeah, but they talk about a child running up and down that hallway, too.
Yeah, they used to hear
So
it from
initially
the
I
first
thought it was
floor.
that boy.
Okay,
Come to find out, after many visits, it was little David.
interesting. So yeah, it's amazing with a location like that. You have multiple spirits. So we've already talked about the Dark Lady. We talked about David. We talked about Walter in the attic.
Yeah.
It's like this little community going on inside that building.
Well, that incident in the hallway, that's then what drew us to come back for the investigation night, ghost hunt, when we met Walter for the first time.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll tell you, you can almost, like I said, guarantee things are going to happen. And,
Just different levels.
Yeah, I did a private tour this morning at the Hermitage ruins for a group from McMaster, and it was a religious studies group, and their angle, they were actually looking into possession.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, I just want to preface by saying that it is not like the movies that you've seen, like The Exorcist. You know, nobody's going to like take you over and turn you into a demon or anything like that. It's not going to spin around. What actually happens in real possession seems to be almost like an outside energy trying to mingle with your own personal energy, and then your body tries to expel it almost like a sickness. So my personal experience was the main one at the Custom House. I think you were there on at least one of those nights, where the energy of the building just shifted. And for a couple months straight, when you walked into the building, you felt uncomfortable, like the air was heavy. And it all kind of came to a head on one evening when I was setting up for the night by myself, and it's still sunny out. I go outside, so the door didn't lock because I had a lock bar. I turned the deadbolt to prop it open, walked to my car, grabbed a couple bags, was walking back, didn't even expect it. And then I look up and I see movement from the door, something from the inside of the empty building, turned the deadbolt lock. So then the door shut, lock bar engaged, locked me out of the building. Now thank God I had the keys, otherwise that'd be the end of the night. And then as I'm bringing down the chairs from the attic in the elevator, I got 20 chairs down for 50 people, and then the elevator stops working. So it's an interesting evening so far. And then fast forward to the seance. That was, I think, the first time that we contacted something that said it was the Dark Lady. And I remember through our communication device, the dreaded Ouija board, it was very strong, and it would circle the letters and numbers instead of pointing to show its strength. And it was angry, and said it was the Dark Lady. And as we were having that communication, that was the very first time I ever saw it happen, was a young girl in the circle started shaking. That's the type of shaking that you might do if you were sick, have a fever, something you can't control. And when we went up to her to ask her what was going on, she said she couldn't move her arms and legs. She was paralyzed. So thank God we had Kate as our psychic that night. So Kate runs up, and we stopped the seance. She's doing a clearing, helping this girl. And we were so freaked out, we just ended the night early. So fast forward. A month later, I'm doing the next one, and we do the seance at the end of the night, and doesn't the same energy come in? Like, I think she was blocking everything else throughout the night. Nobody was getting any results.
Oh, she can.
Yeah, when we got to the board, it's circling the letters, the same strength in what it was saying. And as I was doing the seance, I think it was right at the beginning, then a girl starts shaking, another girl starts shaking, a third girl starts shaking, all of the same age range, like it was 16 to 20. And I just stopped the seance, the psychics went to action, but at this point I'm not as freaked out. So I brought a smaller group together, circled the Ouija board, made sure there was no younger girls in it because they were the ones being affected. And I asked very simply of the energy, why are you so angry? And she said, poem. Poem. She hated the poem because it described her as the devil, like I said, with horns and hooves. And I don't know any woman who wants to be described that way. So after that, I said to her over the board, I said, we will never tell the poem on the tour again. And it ended that way, kind of in a nice way. And right at the very end, I heard it again. And I turned around, and a 16-year-old girl snuck into the circle when I wasn't looking. She was shaking, but only for a moment. And then she ran out the front door and vomited in front of the building. That was like the very last time that it ever happened. But yeah, no, that was my experience with possession. And then as well, after the Merritt House investigation, Kate, our psychic, had the same type of reaction. And it's where you shake, you can't move, you're like stick still. And if you just don't fight it, let it happen, eventually the energy will be dispelled. It's not something that can remain with you for very long. Unless you're scared. And then maybe it can hound you.
Then it feeds off the fear.
Yeah.